The mere prospect of such a thing causes them to ban it. Basically, they're making the point that if a word that had the same impact as the N-word existed for white people, it would have been banned long ago. Which, I mean, yeah, probably. And finally, at the end of the episode, Stan comes to the realization that Token has been looking for this entire time.
I've been trying to say that I understand how you feel, but I'll never understand. I'll never really get how it feels for a black person to have somebody use the N-word.
Now you get it, Stan.
Yeah, I totally don't get it.
Thanks, dude.
You know, normally when I talk about South Park's controversies, this is the part where I talk about the chaos that followed the episode, but like I said, it was pretty much non-existent following this one. Rather, this episode was met with critical acclaim. To this day, it's one of the highest rated episodes on IMDb, sitting at an 8.8 out of 10. IGN gave the episode a resounding 10 out of 10, going as far as to call it a masterpiece. I didn't actually read the review, but knowing IGN, it probably said something along the lines of, "It really makes you feel like you're being called the N-word." Interestingly enough, CNN actually ran a story about the episode, and it included this bit of unintentional comedic timing that I greatly appreciated.
I know it, but I don't think I should say it.
But he does say it.
It's funny because the segment definitely felt like they began by attempting to capitalize on another South Park controversy, showing everyone how mad people are about this episode by interviewing people in the streets, only for these people they interviewed to be like, "No, I didn't find it offensive at all. Actually, I really enjoyed it."
It's not really the word that's important. Look at what's going on inside, you know? That's what I got.
The most egregious example of this was when they interviewed the two founders of a group known as Abolish the N-Word, a group with ties to the NAACP. Again, it definitely felt like they saw the name of this group and thought, they're definitely going to be pissed about this, we got to get an interview from them. Well, if that was their plan, it backfired heavily, considering they would praise the episode, citing it as educational and helpful to their cause.
This show, in its own comedic way, is helping to educate people about the power of this word and how it feels to have hate language directed at you.
And this response from the founders of Abolish the N-Word is really the key to why they, quote, got away with using the word. The episode itself is kind of a statement on why the word shouldn't be used, especially by those who have no understanding of how it feels to hear the word used against them. The heavy focus on Randy's experience having hateful words thrown at him illustrates this point perfectly, as his experiences mirror the discrimination that black victims of the past have faced. This is made especially clear when Stan makes the concession that he doesn't understand, despite spending the entire episode trying to relate to Token to make him feel better. He finally realizes that the only thing he can truly admit about the situation is that he doesn't relate. He's never known what it's like to get called the N-word as a black person. This whole episode is just the perfect execution of the same way South Park has always done their satire, which I've talked about 1,000 times on this channel. Take a controversial issue, use imagery or words that on their own could be considered offensive, and use them to add to the underlying message behind the episode. So even though they may be using a word that many would consider offensive, they're doing it to better emphasize the underlying point that they're making, which isn't offensive at all. The reason this episode was so uncontroversial is because they did so well. Anyone who watched this episode would be able to tell you what I just told you. They make the point very clear, and because of that, the people who you would think would have been offended understood that Matt and Trey were actually on their side. Well, almost everybody. You see, I forgot to mention that there was technically one group that was offended by this episode, but their reasoning was not really what you would expect. The Parents Television Council is a conservative activist group known for targeting South Park many times throughout the years. Their founder, L. Brent Bozell, would come out shortly after the release of this episode to criticize the lack of outrage surrounding the episode. Particularly, he would criticize the response from the founders of Abolish the N-Word that I talked about earlier. He made comparisons to Don Imus, a radio host who faced backlash for racial remarks made on his show. Now, this is what Don Imus said on his show. Yeah, that's pretty different in context. I don't really think they're all that comparable. So let me just real quick, let me recap what this man's opinion was. This dude, who clearly watched the entire episode and definitely understood the message, decided to tell black people how they should feel about the N-word being used. This guy told these people how they should feel about the N-word. Man, these scripts just write themselves.